What's up, everybody? It's Jeremy Minnick with the Game Changing Roofer Podcast, a show created to share the stories of roofers who are changing the game in the roofing industry. This show is meant to help roofers build better businesses and better lives. My guest today is an entrepreneur from Pennsylvania who, without a degree or formal education, went from making less than minimum wage on his father's farm to a rising star in the local roofing company. He helped to lead the company's sales force to its fourth consecutive appearance on the Inc. 5000 list of fastest growing companies. He ranked second in the sales force that helped the company grow to $50 million and was personally responsible for $4 million in sales in his first full year with the company. However, the breakthrough experience did not come without its share of failures. Here today to share a story and shed light on the skills and strategies necessary for roofing sales success is Sam Martin from Winner's Circle Training. Welcome to the show, Sam.
Awesome. Jeremy, appreciate you having me on.
Really pumped to have you here on the show today. And I think, I kind of say this all the time with my guests, but I think you've got a lot to share, a lot of value and a great story to share. And so, of course, where I always love to kind of kick it off is, with that introduction being laid out, what was the journey? How did you find yourself in the roofing space? What was your journey into roofing sales? And then what's been kind of the journey stemming from that?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm excited to be on here. I hope that I can bring some real value, whether you're a business owner or someone just getting started in sales. Hope that I can shed not only a little bit about what's possible and maybe some inspiration to get to that, but also some tactical skills and strategies. So yeah, for me, there was no overnight success or aha moment where everything just kind of clicked into place. I grew up, like you mentioned a little bit, grew up on my dad's farm, was homeschooled, never went to college or approached that route. Always had big goals of things that I wanted to achieve, but was stuck doing, blue collar jobs, landscaping, farming, construction, until I actually got connected with a roofing company in my hometown. I had no idea about the industry or anything that really goes on. And when I met the owner, they hired me pretty much right away. Before that, I had tried a lot of different things. I had tried getting in sales and failed at that. But with my first official sales role, took a couple months to get up and rolling. But then with my first full season, was able to work up and really mastered the craft, I would say. Did just over 4 million in sales my first full year at that company. So it was quite the process of nothing to a good amount.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I love that, you kind of even just shared just genuinely that there wasn't necessarily that aha moment. It's not like from day one, you were not necessarily a natural superstar, just like right from the get-go. I mean, it was a journey and you had to learn, you had to basically maybe trip and fall, fail a little bit to kind of get there. But we're able to figure out the formula. And obviously that's something we'll unpack a little bit as we go through today. And then just kind of quickly, if you can, speak about, stemming from roofing sales. You obviously coach a lot of entrepreneurs and sales guys in general, people looking to sort of have the right motivation and mindset, roofers included. Speak a little bit about just kind of with Winner's Circle Training, what are you doing there to kind of build a community of salespeople with the right mindset and strategies?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, I had always had big goals and dreams. So all along, I heavily invested in myself. I did all kinds of training from business, sales, mindset, habits, self-discipline, like you name it. I've had coaches and courses in the space. So I felt like all of that really tied into me being able to get to that level, selling 4 million and earning a little over 350 in commissions that one year, my best year. So that's really why I was passionate about launching Winner's Circle Training. And I wanted to be able to help other people achieve those same results in their lives. So we work with people in all different spaces, but a large part of what we do is in the roofing and sales space. So helping people to take their sales game and their personal game to the next level, help them win at a bigger level, just like it says in the name Winner's Circle Training.
Right. Right. Well, that's awesome. And so I think it's a good segue basically into number one, kind of one of the things we really want to talk about today on the show is basically sharing some insights into the foundational skills and strategies, necessary for sales and sales success. So, kind of dive into that a little bit, unpack that. When you think about foundational skills and strategies that sales guys need, especially roofing sales guys, what comes to mind?
Yeah, so in the roofing space specifically, there's a lot of distrust, right? You think of the average roofing company, the homeowner's very nervous about someone going up there and, ripping off shingles or doing something unethical because they can't really, they're up there. You don't really see what's going on. So
Right.
I think differentiating yourself from that like stigma that the roofing space oftentimes has, and building that trust and that credibility and showing up as a professional and having that differentiation, because you don't want that distrust, right? People buy from people they know, like, and trust. So if they don't know you and if they don't trust you, they're not going to buy from you and you're not going to be able to
Right.
transact. So I think that's a very key foundational piece that a lot of roofers still aren't doing to this day. So if you can do that, even as a rep and as a company, differentiating yourself in that way will put you leaps and bounds ahead of the pack.
And what do you think some of those, why is that the case, if you will, kind of in the roofing space? And what are some of the like most common mistakes that you feel like roofers slash roofing salespeople are making when approaching the homeowner? What is it about them? Is it what they're saying? Is it how they're carrying themselves? Is it how they're dressing, how they're acting? I mean, what are those things that are the stigma, are commonly thought of as the stigma? And obviously, how can we get around that?
Yeah, I think a lot of times that comes from, if you've been in the industry for a long time, you just you have this sense of what it's supposed to be and what it's not supposed to be. And that kind of belief of what it is, I think, rubs off on people. But also, a lot of these guys are coming from a blue collar background, or maybe they grew up, they weren't the white collar guy that was showing up to work every day in a suit. So
Right.
they might not be as sharp on some of those professional skills and showing up professional and powerful as a professional every single day. That in itself differentiates you a lot. Like if you're going door to door, if you're talking to people, they have no previous experience with you, right? All they know is what they see in those first few seconds. And as humans, we're judging people. We're making that snap second judgment based off of what you see. So how you're showing up to the day, if you have a morning routine, are you working out? Are you showing up with those right mindsets and habits every single day? That's going to convey through to the person. And that in itself is going to build trust, making sure you're clean cut. Are you shaved up? Like, do you look good? Are you presentable? I've seen guys go to door in like flip flops or shorts or, whatever. And it's like, what would you think of someone like that if they came to your house, like,
Right.
so just thinking through that.
Right. And no, it's a great point about the kind of the preparation daily, and we'll unpack that a little bit more in just a minute. But it also brings to mind for me two things. The first one is on actually the last podcast I did, and with the guest Becca Switzer from Roof Sales Mastery, one of the things that she kind of unpacked, I'd never really heard this perspective before, but she trains, she teaches, this is kind of her unique approach, that you got to kind of match the energy that the homeowner has when they greet you. And I think that that's oftentimes overlooked. And so one of the things she said that really resonated with me is that, you may basically a disunion between what someone is saying, the salesperson is saying, and sort of how they're expressing it. So they might come to the door and they might say something like, hey, I hate knocking on doors. I hate, bothering you when you're at home, which is what they're feeling. But if you say it like, hey, I hate knocking on doors, I hate disrupting your life right now, and you say it with too much energy and sort of being the nice guy, overly nice, and that's just disingenuous. It's a disconnect from, you're trying to resonate with them and what you're saying, but your body language isn't at all expressing, basically, and matching how they're feeling, which is, why the heck did you just knock on my door? Are you here to harm, or rob me?
Exactly.
So what have you found there a little bit as well in terms of like door to door, like demeanor, and also just kind of the approach, I guess, to the door? How important is that in the process?
Yeah, I mean, that's everything, right? With, any other type of sale, if it's a process where they've seen your website or they're kind of going through a funnel, they know a little bit about you, it's more natural. With the door, like, it's cold, they open that door, you have a matter of seconds to really build that connection. So that's a huge point, is really mirroring the personality of the body language and the tonality of the person you're talking with. You'll get that one guy who, lives in a mansion, is the CEO of a company or whatever, and he wants the points, he wants it fast. Other people, they might be a little bit more laid back and they just kind of want to ease into it. So I think understanding and reading that on their end as fast as possible so that you can almost become like a chameleon and mimic that is key. What my approach, I like to really break it down into a scientific process, and really be specific and measurable in everything that you're doing, right? So
Right.
when they're doing a scientific experiment, they have the control group and then they have the test group. And that control group, you want to stay the same every single time. So it's not like you have to have, word for word script of like, you don't want to sound like a robot reading it off or anything, but
Right.
you want to say those same words every single time so that you can see when it goes off, okay, this word didn't work with my personality and this customer. And then once you are finding the holes in your pipeline, you can plug that and then you can test that anecdotally and see this is what's making the result, So I had more of a soft approach and then building the tension as it went on, because those first few seconds is kind of how you have that time to build their trust and that connection as a person before you can start to crank it up a little bit.
Right. Just curious kind of on that point as well, sharing a little bit of a snippet and like an insight into sort of that script. There's obviously a lot of different philosophies in the sales space, I feel like, about how long the script should be. For example, some people they take the approach of basically don't stop talking for X amount of time. Don't let them get a word in. Make sure you add as many details as possible and just keep on going.
Yeah.
Or there's people who maybe are very short, right? Say something that's 5 to 10 seconds or less, and then be quiet and listen for their response, or somewhere in the middle. Kind of unpack that. I mean, what's your approach? What's your philosophy? What have you found that has worked really well for you and for those you've trained as well?
Yeah, for me and for the people I work with, it's something in the middle, right? Because too short, they're already uninterested when they come to the door. They're not interested, and that's probably what you hear half the time. And then too long, they're just like, okay, like stop sales pitching me, like I want to go on with my life. So, like I said, I like to start off soft and then just kind of building that connection. So it like my traditional approach was just like, hey, this is Sam Martin with XYZ company. Sorry to bother you. I just wanted to bring you up to speed on what's going on in the neighborhood. So plugging that curiosity and it's almost like the Hollywood story loop, right? They start this drama and they're building this story, and then there's missing pieces, right? And the human brain has this desire to fill those holes and complete that story loop, right? So creating that unended story loop creates that interest and that curiosity for them to listen to the rest of your pitch. So when they kind of feel like they're on the out and they don't know what's going on in the area, then you can continue to fill them in and kind of walk them through that process, if that makes sense.
It does. Yeah. That's and one thing that you kind of alluded to there that I've heard a lot when kind of with respect to canvassing a neighborhood or sort of trying to take over a neighborhood, if you will. One of the things that your script just alluded to is that there's a reference to sort of the neighbors, the neighborhood. It's really personal. It's kind of locally relevant, potentially even name dropping some of the neighbors maybe that you've already talked to. And that, it seems like, can be a really powerful strategy with regards to door to door. Is, again, if you can say, hey, I just spoke with, or, here in the neighborhood, we're helping out. It's just so much warmer and friendlier and near to them than obviously coming in and just kind of giving the pitch, the name of the company, can I get up on your roof now? Just let me get the ladder out and put it against your siding.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a pretty common thing, is this whole like neighboritis and keeping up with the Joneses mentality that humans have naturally, and you can really play off that well with this kind of localized marketing strategy that you're doing with a combination of probably direct mailers and door knocking. But yeah, that's powerful. Name dropping. And once, like, part of my strategy, and we'll get into this later on in the podcast, but is really building momentum in a very concentrated area. And that plays in even better to that kind of approach. So I like that a lot, 100%.
So good. So I think that's a good segue into getting really honed in for a minute on specific like roofing sales strategies, tips, tactics, kind of scripts, really, really practical advice. The first thing that you just kind of mentioned there is basically how to set your jobs up, how to target specific areas. So from sort of maybe quickly a 10,000 foot view, getting narrower and narrower, what's something that, again, as a salesperson, you found to be effective and that you've coached others on in terms of setting up jobs and targeting specific areas?
Yeah. So I think with that, it's just like in any sales role or any business, it's easy to get distracted and wide with kind of your approach and your focus. But really, there's only three things that are important when it comes down to this. And it's taking urgent action on focusing on what matters and eliminating all the bullshit. So knocking doors, over delivering to your current clients, and then getting referrals. Like if you're doing those three things, you're going to have unlimited business. And the problem soon is not going to be how do I get more sales? It's going to be how do I manage all this, right? So
Right.
if you're focusing on those three key performers, the sales problem is going to soon go away. Then it's going to be those new problems. But yeah, being able to control yourself and have control of yourself as an individual, if you're a sales rep, your mind and your body are naturally going to look for reasons why you shouldn't be knocking doors, right? Like,
Right.
oh, I got to check my email, or it's 5:30, maybe someone's making dinner right now and I don't want to bother them or whatever. Like people are going to be bothered no matter when you're showing up. So
Right.
volume and taking that urgent and massive action.
Right.
When I was first getting started, I would make up 100 door hangers and I would go out and I wouldn't come back until those are done. So if you have again, kind of that measurable process, if you're going out with 100 hangers every day, you're leaving it on every door that doesn't talk to you, and out of the, however many people you get to talk to, you're converting a certain percentage. You can only do that so long without getting results. It's a volume game at that point.
Right. So I love that. I love the three-tiered kind of approach that you just mentioned there, which is basically knocking doors, over delivering, and referrals, kind of highlighting each step of that process and those three main things to focus on. Related to knocking doors, I mean, just kind of talked about that for a second. I mean, truly, is it a numbers game in your mind where you got to knock 200, you got to knock 300 within a week, you got to do 500? I mean, is it that kind of numbers game, or is it that to start, and then once you get more strategic and more experience basically at knowing who to knock, you can kind of scale down those numbers because your close rate, your conversion rates are going to be higher? What's your approach on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a combination of both. When you're getting started, if you're a new rep and you're just like, hey, I'm not that busy, I'm not making the money that I want, I don't have as many jobs going on, the only thing that you should be focusing on is just knocking doors. Like every spare minute that you have, you should be going out and doing that. And what's the right number to have? Well, stop knocking doors when you have the sales that you're looking for. But if you're hitting 100 doors and you're leaving, 100 hangers, you might only get the chance to talk to 10 people, 20 people, 30 people, 40 people, depending on how receptive people are, how many people are home. But if you're taking that amount of volume, you're going to have enough conversations and something's gonna pop off. But when you're really kickstarting that, like I never really knocked doors for more than a couple weeks at a time, to the point where I just had so much business that I didn't even have time to knock doors. So that's almost the goal, right? You don't want to be the guy that's
Right.
constantly going out and just knocking every single day. Because if you're
Right.
doing it right, you will gain business and momentum from that without having to make that your whole life.
Right. And so that kind of leads, I think, into the next one. I mean, basically you just alluded to, you knock doors for a while so as to create a snowball effect where eventually you don't have to knock doors anymore. And that's going to eventually, we're going to lead into referrals. But the interim in between is maybe an overlooked part, which is over delivering. So why is over
Yeah.
delivering so important? And what is that? What does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the roofing space in particular, there's a lot of, maybe this is a gray area for some people, because it's like that big ticket sale. Once you get the contract, once you get the client, like, we got you. Like you're in our game now. We got your money. So that is just not a great way to do business. And how you treat one customer is going to reflect on your brand,
Right.
on your reputation, on everything. So I think the reason people think that way is because, it's a 20-year cycle. Like we're never going to deal with this person again or whatever, even if they're not consciously thinking that. It's kind of in the
Right.
it's just built into it, right? But the easiest way to get clients is creating salespeople out of your clients. So if you can make your current clients so thrilled about what it is that you're doing and what it is that you did for them, they will go out and they will get you 3 easy sales, 5 easy sales, especially in the insurance restoration space where, a lot of that is covered. Like that's the number one way to not only protect your brand and your reputation, but also generate more sales is in that process right there.
Right. And just kind of highlighting that for a quick, putting it under a microscope, what are just a couple of practical suggestions you have for over delivering? Like what were some of the things that you focused on most to quote unquote create an over delivered, stellar experience
Yeah.
for the customer?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Just small things that I did, I think really went a long way. I had each of my clients in my personal phone under contact. So when they called me, I knew exactly who I was talking to and I answered, hey, John, hey, Sue, whoever it was.
Right.
I put HO, homeowner, in front of all of my roofing clients so that they were all saved at the same spot and I could easily go back and I would see that it was a client calling when they were calling. This was all my
Nice.
personal
That's
stuff. Some
awesome.
people might have
Yeah.
CRM or whatever. But being able to have that personal contact, if you have a roof build going on and you have a bunch of other appointments during that day,
Right.
you need to be able to know when that client is calling you because it's probably something important if they have a question about, where the shingles are falling or the material getting there or whatever.
Right.
So that's one thing, just going above and beyond with the cleanup and making sure that they're satisfied at the end of the project. So I always went around with a bucket and a magnet after the crew, making sure that everything was cleaned up, that it was spotless, like I would want it to be in my yard.
Right.
Because nails are something everybody's always getting hit with. And setting the proper expectations too, because they've never gone through a roof build before, likely in their lives. So
Right.
helping them understand, it's going to be a little bit messy. There's going to be a process, but we're going to do everything we can to take care of it. Having that proper expectation going into it is crucial. The last thing I would say with that is kind of keeping them up to date on the process throughout the day. So sometimes I would be up on the roof. I would take pictures of the roof and text that to them. Maybe they're at work, maybe they're in their house, and just be like, hey, roof project's going great. We're at this phase, this is the next phase. And that really helps them to feel like, I know what's going on. I'm comfortable with this guy. And again, building that relationship, over delivering to the point where they trust you, they love you, and they want to help you move forward.
Yeah, it's interesting. That all makes perfect sense. And the examples that you've given are awesome, right? I mean, anybody listening to this podcast, if they're not already doing that, especially with some of the easier ones, could potentially add that into their daily cycle tomorrow and make a huge difference. I mean, number one, the easiest would be adding those contacts into their phone. Number two would probably be, if they have the time or if it makes sense within their company structure to show back up with a bucket, making sure that the yard is clean, there's no debris, no nails, etc. And then number three, obviously, just staying in touch, keeping the client up to date. And on that last point, it's pretty wild because in pretty much every industry, especially an industry where you have, these kinds of client interactions, whether they be for a project or quote unquote in a retainer relationship, like month after month after month after month, there's really two main reasons it seems like most people leave. The first one, of course, is, well, if there's no result, right? Or the results are poor. So if somebody installs a bad roof, well, hard to fix that in terms of the client relationship. But the second thing I feel like is basically how much you as the project manager, or as the salesperson, or as a company care. And really what I mean by that is how much does the customer, how much does the homeowner, the client perceive that you care? And the more that they perceive that you care, the more likely they are to obviously continue to give their trust and their referrals and their reviews and their good graces of your company. But if they perceive that you don't care, and that, again, as you said, oh, that guy I feel like he just closed the sale and I just got suckered. That's a terrible way before the roof's even been installed, to start off the process with the client.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think also it helps with your back end so much too, because when, if you're in the roofing space, how many things can go wrong. And a lot of times they do, how careful you are, how well prepared you are. But when you build this relationship with the client, think of your relationship with them almost as a cushion or a barrier between you and all hell breaking loose, right? So if you have a great relationship with that person and things really start to go bad, you can kind of cushion the impact of that because they know you care, they know you're a good person and that you're going to take care of them. and that softens the blow a little bit, you know, when a bush gets smashed or a nail in a tire or whatever.
Right.
If there's no relationship right there, you have no cushion. As soon as something goes bad, they're going right to Google. They're leaving you a nasty review.
Right.
They're spreading rumors throughout the neighborhood. So that's crucial, not only to just be a good person and ethically do right, but also to
Right.
protect your momentum within the neighborhood and your company reputation and your future sales as well.
Right.
I think that's key.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And so that kind of brings us to the third part. So again, the first part was, knocking doors, kind of the volume, creating the snowball effect, generating the interest, the leads that eventually leads to having the leads, right? And as you begin to close them, you can over deliver. Speak a little bit about referral strategy. So obviously, it's great to get genuine referrals, and maybe that's kind of where you're headed with that. But were there also ways that you proactively would seek out referrals, would encourage current customers to give referrals? How did you approach that end of things?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you've been in sales for a while, like referrals are the lifeblood of any salesperson. If you're just getting started,
Right.
that's the truth. Sales and referrals go hand in hand. If you want to be able to generate a lot of sales, you have to build off of referrals. But I think how you go about getting referrals is key, right? That's the second sale. The timing of when you're asking for that referral is critical. And for me, and what I teach our students is always ask for the referral at the height of their excitement and experience with you. So maybe for you, the height of their experience is right after, their roof gets improved by the insurance, and they're blown away because they have this coverage and they're like so excited to get their roof done. Or maybe it's right after the product's delivered. Maybe it's right after the roof is done and they're just thrilled with getting the roof done. So when you're asking for the referral at the height of their excitement and enthusiasm with you, you are much more likely to, get that progress. Also asking multiple times, like people are busy, they want to help you out, but they just forget. Being intentional and following through with that, because people say they will do things, but they don't always obviously follow through. So if you can help them along that process, like, hey, so-and-so, get their number or get them to drop you in a 3-way text conversation so you can start that conversation and you can move forward with them, is critical to really generating those referrals.
And just curious, what did you find? Was there a particular kind of referral channel, introduction channel that you found worked best? Like, was it when somebody just simply gave you, hey, my neighbor Bob, here's his phone number, here's his email address, contact him directly? Or was it the 3-way text message chain? Or was it, hey, I'll get Bob to contact you? What did you find to be most effective and produce kind of the best leads and introductions?
The worst I would say is, I'll have them reach out to you, just because that almost never works.
Yeah.
Second best is, here's their contact info, like, feel free to give them a call. Third best would be, or I guess I'm going, this is getting better.
Right.
Third is getting dropped in a text conversation, a 3-way text. Hey, this is Sam. He just did our roof. He did a great job. I'd love for you guys to work with him, blah, blah, blah. The best is probably just having them so excited about their roof that they run down the street with you and knock on their neighbor's door right there. Yeah. I've had that. I've had people literally stand at the corner of their house and be like a little evangelist for my work. And every neighbor that would be out walking their dog, they'd be telling it about, handing out my cards and asking to, just telling people what's going on. So you want to create those little raving fans too.
And that's awesome. And I mean, it's such a, it's, I think, hard, especially if for any, roofers who are struggling with their sales or struggling to get started. I mean, it's almost sometimes, I think, hard to comprehend how much of a snowball effect this really can have. That again, once you get like the first one, and especially maybe the first one, and then 2 more in the same neighborhood who are neighbors who kind of know each other, or at least know obviously the people around their houses, that can just really snowball, where you're absolutely right. You have people being evangelists for you. They're doing the hard work and the selling. And again, it all comes back to knowing, kind of liking and trusting. And basically when somebody gives a referral, those essentially, for the most part, those 3 things are kind of out of the way now, and you have the open door. And at that point, almost sometimes with referrals, it really is it's like in your court to screw it up. I mean, that's how good these referrals are. Is basically like you have to do something radical to kind of mess it up, because he did up so well if you've, again, created good evangelists. Anything else to kind of add on that point?
Yeah, I mean, I think like just be a great person. Like if they have a genuine relationship with you, if you're a real person and you actually care, like they're going to feel that, they're going to know that, and they're going to want to help you out. And there's nothing like showing up to a warm referral and they're just like, yeah, so what's the process? Go ahead, do the inspection, let's file the claim. I'll let you know when the adjuster's coming out. That's a totally different process than going on a door cold and trying to sell them on every step of the way.
Right.
It's a totally different sale, and you want to create as many of those lay down sales as possible, and that comes from great referrals. The last thing I wanted to hit on with referrals is two other things that I'd like to implement, and that is referral credits or bonuses of some sort if your company's set up that way, or if you want to do that personally, whether that's gift cards, whether that's financial or whatever, whether that's just some reward that you can give, and then also making it a competition. So again, if you're building that genuine relationship with the homeowner, with the client, like people have this natural desire to help people. So creating some competition within yourself or within your sales team or whatever, and being like, hey, I'm in a competition with my coworkers to see who can get the first 10 referrals. Like, who do you know in the neighborhood that I can reach out to right now and ask them about the roof? Like, they probably have no idea that they have hail damage or have an old roof either or whatever.
Right.
So creating that almost like of a game mentality really helps stir the pot for some people.
I love that. That's a great strategy. It brings to mind a little bit too. I don't know if you ever heard of a really simple tool, really simple app called Commit to 3. You ever heard of that tool?
I've heard of it, I'm pretty sure, but I'm not sure what it does.
So I don't really recall. I don't recall the guy's name. He's not necessarily like, one of the biggest CEOs ever,
Yeah.
but pretty big. I mean, he's definitely some of the companies he's helped run and things like that have been on the Inc. 5000. And long story short, he found himself personally and professionally the kind of person in life, especially it seemed like on a personal standpoint, like with regards to exercise or health or things like that, he just really was struggling to find the daily focus and commitment to goals that he had set for himself. And so, if you go to the website, you can see kind of that story unpacked. He gives a great 20-minute PowerPoint presentation on that, sharing his story and his journey, and definitely really emotionally sort of like, tear jerking, compelling. But the main point is that what he found is that he shares kind of this quote from Aristotle about excellence, basically not just being something that's done like once. It's a virtue, which is a habit, which means that you do it daily. So if you're going to be excellent, if you're going to be committed to something, you've got to do it daily. And the other thing that he noticed about successful people and CEOs that he was watching is that it just seemed like they didn't do more. They didn't do laundry lists of things every day and set themselves up for that and then failure because they didn't achieve the 101 tasks that they had set out. They kept it very simple and focused, as you mentioned earlier, on the 3 things that bring results. And so that's where Commit to 3 was born from, was, okay, let's make excellence a daily habit, and we're only going to do 3 things. So anyways, that's a pretty cool tool for anybody, especially roofing business owners listening, who maybe want to figure out a way to get their team locked into those 3 things, or sales managers locked into those 3 things. Excellent app, free, by the way. I think, unless you want upgrades, but it's free. And then again, finally, for even just individuals, if you're just struggling daily to commit to things, awesome app. But anyways, the idea, obviously the big picture idea is that you're committing to a simple list that's going to bring, of course, like the 80-20 rule, the 80% of results from the quote unquote 20% of time and effort invested. Related kind of salespeople and things like that, and related specifically a little bit to sales managers and to roofing business owners, in terms of recruiting and keeping salespeople. So recruiting and hiring and finding top talent, and then also retaining it. Talk a little bit about that. I think you've had a lot of experience in that regard. And let's start with kind of what are some of the common problems that you've seen as it relates to roofing business owners trying to recruit, maybe struggling to do so. And then number 2, maybe they're successful in recruiting, but not successful in retention of the salespeople they get. What are some of those common problems and kind of failures?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a common problem among roofing companies, construction companies alike. Oftentimes they're having issues with retention. They're having issues with the people that are staying. They're not performing or, dominating at the level that they'd like. And that causes a lot of problems, right? Whether it's in project management, whether it's in sales, like having an employee, even if it is a straight commission or a high commission salesperson, that still costs a lot of money, whether you're giving them a truck, training material, marketing material. That is a huge pain point for a lot of roofing companies that I've seen. And the issue is, if you're having this problem, if you're a roofing company owner and you're having this problem in your business right now, I challenge you to ask yourself, why don't great people want to work here? And when you ask that question, you start to think about it a little bit differently. Instead of looking at it, why can't I find these good people? Why don't these good people stay? Why don't good people want to work here? Good people are attracted to good companies and good organizations. And everywhere you go, there you are. So if you're having trouble with finding the right people and keeping the right people, I would challenge you to look within and say, what about what we're doing is not attracting the right people? Because the best people end up at the best companies and they stay there because it's a great company. So how are you doing with your brand? Is your brand attractive? Is it progressive? Are you being ethical? If you want to attract these ethical and, good, hardworking people, are you approaching your business in the same way? Are you treating your clients that way? Do they feel that what you're doing is effective, efficient, and fair? Is the compensation fair? Do you have the right system? Is it just total chaos? I work with a couple guys in the roofing space, and the companies that they work with are just total, chaos all the time. So
Right.
that's key. But I think where you're looking for people is super important too. If you're looking for people that are just out there trying to make a quick buck, or they see the big money in roofing sales and they think, hey, I can go in this, I can just crush it. They think it's some hack or some shortcut. Those aren't the people you want, right? Those are the get rich overnight people, and they're going to ultimately end up costing you a lot of money. So you want to look for the people that have good ethics, the people that are already hardworking, and that are not willing to go out and grind and put in the work, that are young, who are able-bodied. If you're finding that, you can teach the process. What we do in roofing is pretty simple. Just about anyone can learn it. When I started roofing, even though I had been in construction, I had never done anything with residential shingles. So I didn't know anything about drip edge, ice and water, foam paper, all that was brand new to me. But that's pretty simple to learn. But those, you can't teach ethics and you can't teach hard work.
Right. You mentioned a number of really common and clear problems, as to why somebody might not be attracted. If you're a roofing business owner and you're wondering, why aren't people, flocking? Why aren't they coming to this company? Why can't I seem to attract the top talent or the right kinds of people or the right fits for my company? You mentioned things like systems. You mentioned things like brand. You mentioned things like, are you being ethical and virtuous as a company yourself? Obviously, all of these things are probably like a part of the equation. But if you had to highlight, not necessarily the number one, but kind of the number one, maybe the number two, like some of the top reasons that you feel like most business owners are failing at attracting the top talent, what kind of comes to mind for you? Is it more on the system side? There's not a good system, they're not ready to scale, or is it more on the virtue and ethics side, or is it more on the brand and kind of the culture, like the fun, energized company culture, or something else?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to put a finger on just one thing because all of them are such key pieces, right? If you have a really great culture and it's a really fun place to work and you go on cool trips, but every single day at work is hell and there's stuff breaking and things not working, like
Right.
eventually you're going to become really stressed out and probably not want to work there any longer. And if everything's great and the great company and all these things, but there's really no team spirit and there's no mission or drive, like people want to be a part of something bigger than just money too. And that's an important key too. But I think one of the common problems that I see roofing companies specifically doing is just kind of this approach of throw mud against the wall and see what sticks. They kind of, it's that same stigma of what they do with their clients is what they do with their guys. And I know like the drop off is high in roofing. Not everyone is willing to go out there and grind and hit doors. But if you're just if you're giving a half-assed effort and approach to it, that's probably why they are too. If you're not providing the right support, if you don't actually care about your guys, if you don't have the right training in place, like the training seems like such a basic thing that every company would have, but I've seen multi-million-dollar companies that don't have adequate training systems in place, and they just kind of expect people to go out and figure it out. Like, that's not a plan to win. That's not even a plan. So like, if you're planning to, if you're failing to plan, you're planning to fail. So
Right.
having the right training in place too is critical.
Yeah, that makes great sense. And two things that kind of stand out there to me. Number one, in terms of the training, that seems a common thread among kind of sales leaders in the roofing space, consultants, things like that, or even roofing business owners talking about what's working, what's not, is that training isn't maybe taken as seriously as it should. And again, in many other industries, even it's interesting how a roofing business owner, I think, and any company owner often looks at their customers and thinks and knows, if I make a great impression on my client, on my customer in the first 7 days, in the first 30 days, in the first 90 days, however long kind of the sales cycle takes, then I know I can win a customer for life.
Yeah.
And yet that same attention, right, within their own company towards customers isn't given towards the actual people that work in the company.
Yeah.
Like, so that same mindset is like disconnected from, but it's the case that if I give my attention to the salespeople and training them and onboarding them in the right ways, if I can do that really well in the first 7 days, the first 30, and the first 90, I'm going to win them in a sense for life. And obviously you have to have periodic checkpoints to kind of keep doing that, but that's super big. And the other thing that kind of stands out to me as well is related to, you hit it on the head when you said it isn't just about the money for lots of people. For us, honestly, a select few, maybe it is. But I think for the majority of people, obviously everybody wants to make money. They want to have a good job. They want to provide for their families and for themselves and their interests, etc. But it's, there are data sets all over the place saying how important it is to be appreciated at a company, to be congratulated, to be shown praise or thanks for the good work, like basically the word gratitude, right? To feel like the company is grateful for you, you're grateful for the company. And so that, it seems like it's an incredibly important part to build into a roofing company culture, is that showcase of gratitude, that showcase of incentives and leaderboards, but making sure that everybody feels like they're a part of the mission as it heads forward. Another, just really quickly, cool app there is actually an app called Bonusly. And Bonusly is this app I stumbled upon the other day, which essentially it hooks up to like most popular chat platforms. So you could use it with like Google Chat. You can, I think, even use it on text message, email. I mean, it hooks up to everything. And basically points within Bonusly are like dollar bills. So you can make 10 points in Bonusly worth $1 or literally worth $10, etc. You define the math. And then each and every person within the company gets a certain amount of points per month. So let's say they get 100, each point is worth $1. They get to dish out then basically $100 in thanks to different team members. So a sales guy might say, hey, Joe, thanks so much for all the help on the project. To the project manager, thanks so much for all the help on the project today, making sure the homeowner was well taken care of. 5 points or 25 points to Joe for a smooth project today. And then you get to cash those in as flights. You get to cash it in as gift cards to restaurants, Amazon, like the whole 9 yards. So it's an incredible tool, which is, at the end of the day, who wouldn't give $100 to a top performing or even a moderately performing sales guy in the company? It's $100, but that $100 could be the best investment that you've made into them ever or in a long time. So it's pretty crazy, the power of gratitude.
Yeah, I like that. That's a great tool. And it's so true. I mean, it might be the reason they got into the space is because they thought that, they're going from making 40K a year, and then once they make 100K a year or 200, whatever, that it'll just be the best thing ever and all life will be amazing. But once someone gets to that point and they're at that point for a while, it soon becomes less and less about the money and more about their quality of life, the mission that they're tied into, how do they feel about the company and all those things. So how you treat your people, not just from a financial pay standpoint, but also just as a human being, and treating them how they would want to be treated is crucial. And that doesn't just affect your retention rate, it affects your completion rate on projects and the issues that you have after the project, because how you treat your employees and your team is going to reflect through to your clients. And that's what's going to, save you from a lot of these back end problems after the roof is completed.
Right. That makes great sense. The sort of, to summarize a little bit, number one, what are some of your, we've talked a lot about kind of like passively, how do you attract top talent? How do you create a company culture that attracts, which is very powerful, but there's also a level of passivity to that, right? You're waiting for top talent to maybe come to you. In terms of being a little bit more proactive, what are some of the things that you found to be most helpful or successful in more proactively seeking out top talent? What are some of the strategies you found that have worked?
Yeah, I think a big part of that is where you look, right? Like you can go out and you can find salespeople from all over the place. You can use Indeed and all this other stuff to push out your job posting or whatever. But it comes down to where you're looking and where would the people that you want in your organization, where would they hang out, right?
Right.
Where would these people that are hardworking, that are ethical, that are focused on growth, that are ambitious, where would they be? And where I've seen a lot of that is in training and coaching and educational programs. Someone that wants to achieve more, someone that wants to level up and is ambitious is someone that's investing themselves, that's trying to get better, that's doing coaching, that's doing training. So that's a part of what we help companies do as well, is really pairing up those people. But I would say look for people that are invested in themselves, whether that's working with us or whether that's just going out and looking at different programs and thinking, okay, someone that's investing in this type of training, that's working with this type of coach, why would they be doing it? And then how would that affect them in a role like this? So I think looking for people that are invested in themselves is a great way to find great people.
That's a great point. And also it brings to mind for me, I think oftentimes, one of the most common, I feel like, big picture problems, not just in roofing, but in the trades and contracting in general, is I can't find good people. Right. How many times have we heard this? You hear it all the time. But I think one of the biggest problems, if you will, one of the biggest reasons why company owners struggle so much to find top talent is that they only look for it in the moment that the pain is there, right? That they need it. But in order to attract the top talent, number one, hopefully in a lot of cases, you're attracting talent of people who are already working, right? They already have a job. Somebody already saw that they are good. And so they've hired them. So that's not some overnight thing where they might jump ship from their current job in 6 days. It may take 3 months, 6 months, 2 years. It could take a long time basically in that quote unquote sales cycle to recruit. And so, I think basically the point is, you either have the mindset of, I'm going to market when I have the pain and the need of, I don't have leads, so now I'm going to market, or I'm only going to sell when I need to make sales, or I'm only going to recruit when I don't have anybody to fill this position. You either have that mindset or you have the mindset of, no, I'm always selling. I'm always marketing. I'm always recruiting every single day, because the day will come and the moment will come when I need a lead, or I need a recruit, or I need a new job to close. Have you found that to be true in your experience?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's as a business overall, are you putting out fires, or are you taking that long-term proactive approach and getting the right people on board in the ship before you actually need them? And if you're only going out there and looking for people once the fire's there, when you're just trying to put out the fire, you're going to be desperate and you're going to be bringing people who are just sitting around looking for work. And that's not the type of person that you want in any company, let alone a company where the whole objective is to go out there and to generate sales and generate revenue. So like you said, looking for those top performers in other companies. And if you're the best at what you do, if you have a commitment as a business owner, as a company, to be the best at what you do, then that's your overall focus. And again, great people are going to be attracted to that. So you're not going to have an issue pulling people from other companies to come work for you, because all the other companies have the same problems. If you have that commitment to excellence, like you said, a state of excellence is a state of being, not a thing that you do once. It's a habit. It's a lifestyle. You're not going to have any issues pulling top performers from other companies.
Right. Well, two more questions here as we kind of wrap up, Sam. I want to ask you. One is gonna be a great kind of part of the story, a conclusion, a wrap up point on the part of the story. And number two, I'll ask you kind of about your favorite book and podcast. But the first question is, so in terms of kind of on almost the note of retention, and I'm not making this as a critical point about the company that you were with, saying that they couldn't retain top talent. More, I'm trying to highlight obviously about you, about your story, about your journey into wanting to coach, wanting to share your success with others through Winner Circle training. You made, is it correct? You made 350,000 in commissions after that first full year. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I was in between 20 and 21. I was turning 21, and yeah, did a little over 350, 360 something.
And how does somebody at that state in their life making that kind of money turn from roofing to continue to pursue something other than that?
Yeah, so had a lot of people that were calling me crazy, that's for sure. Just barely missing the number one sales rep, great company, great income, no doubts in the world of being able to do it again next year, and really taking that pay cut and going all the way to zero to start over. I've always been a little audacious and, just wanting to build to the next thing. And I knew that it was the next step for me. But I think the biggest thing deep down was that desire to help other people that felt the same way that I did. When I was working in that construction job, when I was just kind of going through the mundane, going through the day to day, felt like there was no path to excel, to achieve the things that I wanted to. And I just felt super stuck and trapped in what I was doing. And I just felt like in everything that I had been through in such a short period of time, I was like, I have something that can help those guys totally transform from where they are to where they want to be. I have the information, I have the experience, and I have the opportunities for them to do that. So I really became passionate about helping other people to make that transition and get out of that prison to that paradise as well.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love that. And one other quick one for you here is basically, obviously, you mentioned at the beginning that you have, leaned on a lot of coaches, consultants, great minds, mentors, I'm sure books, podcasts, things like that. In terms of books in the kind of the realm of podcasts, what is maybe kind of the number one or one of the best that has really helped you in your sales career with your mindset and ultimately just to help you achieve success? Kind of what's been the most impactful and influential maybe book or podcast that you've encountered?
Yeah, it's hard to say because there's so many. There's certain books that I like more so for their story and their inspirational side of things, and then there's some that are more tactical. So I'll give you two. Grant Cardone was a big influence for me when I was first starting out because his brand was just up and starting. He was all about Uncle G and young hustlers and stuff like that. And going door to door, people have different opinions of him. But for me at that time, that was like what I needed, that like drive and having that something to tie into. So a lot of Grant stuff at first, the 10X rule, some of those early books was kind of like my initial getting started. Recently, I've really liked some of Ray Dallio's stuff. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. Was the founder of Bridgewater. It's the most successful private equity fund in the world. Have, I think, multiple hundreds of billions under management. But he came out with a book called Principles, and it's just very tactical. He has tons of systems that people can implement to really, business owners and individuals alike, to be able to implement those principles in their lives as really guide rails or guidelines to keep them on track to the things that they want to achieve. So those are two for me.
That's awesome. And kind of lastly, if people want to learn more about you, Sam, or about Winner's Circle training, where should they go to find that, to connect with you? And just, if you would, speak for a second, just quickly about what is Winner Circle training and how could it maybe benefit roofing company owners or roofing sales guys?
Yeah, so our mission at Winner Circle Training is to deliver the education, the accountability, and the opportunity for young, ambitious people to achieve freedom. And we do that through training to help people win. So we have different training programs. A part of what we do, though, is we help companies get connected with these ambitious people that are invested in training, that are motivated and driven, because in sales, the number one thing that you need is you need that drive. You need someone that's motivated to go out and do that. So part of what we do after we go through the training, we really help people start to make that transition. We also partner with companies to connect them with great talent. So if you're a company and you're kind of trying to figure out this process or you'd like help with that, we do that as well. So we help individuals, but we also help companies really training to help people win in their life and their career. So that's what we do. You can find us online at winnercircletraining.com, or you can find me on social media, Sam Martin on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. Instagram is at Sam Martin Success, is where you can find me.
Awesome. And I'll share all those links below in the podcast notes and things like that. But Sam, thanks so much. Again, incredible story, kind of coming from basically below minimum wage to doing big time commissions, and now sharing basically the success you've had through coaching to others to help them achieve that same level. So thanks again for all the insights related to door-to-door sales, tactics, scripts, and then also especially to hiring and retention of sales reps. So thanks again for being on the show,
Absolutely.
Sam.
Absolutely, Jeremy. Appreciate it.